Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone, your shortcut to getting really well informed. Today, we're diving into something absolutely critical, especially for those of you charting your course towards SPHR certification. We're exploring the strategic heartbeat of talent management.
Exactly. We're not just talking numbers here. It's about how you motivate performance, how you keep your best people, especially now when things are so competitive. And, doing it all while keeping the board happy and staying compliant, that's the real trick.
Right. So today, we're diving headfirst into total rewards. We're going to focus specifically on incentive programs, variable pay, and the pretty intricate world of executive compensation. Think of this as your essential, engaging deep dive. Our goal is to help you confidently master this SPHR domain.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is that we're really exploring these powerful dynamic tools when you use them correctly. They align, employee effort with the organization's entire strategic roadmap. So for your SPHR, understanding the why behind these structures, the real purpose, that's absolutely key.
Definitely. And that mission, well, it feels particularly urgent. Just knowing the definitions, that's not enough for the SPHR. You need to grasp the strategic dilemmas these concepts present. So our goal today, equip you with the core concepts, the critical legal stuff, strategic insights, practical frameworks, maybe even some handy mnemonic aids. We want you to really nail the SPHR total rewards domain. Every bit of info today is important for that exam, so let's make it stick. Okay, so let's start with the foundations, the building blocks of compensation. When we talk about how people get paid, we usually split it into two big buckets: direct compensation and indirect compensation. Direct is pretty straightforward, right? It's the cash. Your salary, wages, bonuses, commissions, money for work. Indirect, on the other hand, that's all the benefits that have real monetary value. Health insurance, company retirement contributions, paid time off. You don't see it as cash right away, but it's a huge part of your earnings.
Absolutely. And together, those two, direct and indirect, they make up an employee's total compensation package.
And then, within that direct compensation piece, we make another really critical distinction: base pay versus variable pay. Base pay, that's your fixed salary or wage, stable, predictable income for doing your job.
Right, provides that security.
Exactly. But while base pay gives security, the real strategic engine for motivation, that often lies in variable pay, sometimes called pay at risk or pay for performance. It moves up or down based on results individual, team, or company. This is where you find bonuses, commissions, profit sharing, stock awards. It's all about tying pay directly to hitting specific goals.
Right. And a truly effective rewards mix is just crucial. It balances that stable base pay meeting fundamental needs, offering security with variable pay that's really designed to motivate higher achievement. And importantly, alignment. So for example, an engineer might get, say, a solid $80,000 base salary, and then maybe an annual variable bonus, perhaps 10–20%, based on hitting specific project milestones during the year.
Makes sense.
You really need both.
Yeah.
One for stability, the other for pushing performance, for aspiration.
Right, that balance is crucial. Okay, so with that foundation laid, direct, indirect, base, variable, the next step is how companies actually structure those variable parts. How do they create powerful incentives? Let's talk incentive plans. The biggest split here often comes down to time horizon. Short-term incentive plans, or STDIs, and long-term incentive plans, LTIs. SDIs, well, like the name says, they usually pay out within a year. Think quarterly bonuses, annual bonuses for hitting sales targets, profit goals, project milestones, usually cash.
Quick hits, basically.
Yeah. And then you have LTIs. These are designed to reward results over multiple years, really looking at sustained value creation. They're often equity-based, involving some form of company ownership or maybe multi-year cash bonuses. Examples, maybe a bonus tied to 3-year performance, stock options, or those restricted stock units, RSUs, that vest over several years.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, ESTA types are great for driving immediate goals, like a retail company giving store managers a quarterly bonus for hitting local sales targets. That pushes urgency right now. But, what's truly insightful or maybe problematic is how often companies get stuck just focusing on S-types. They create this quarterly earnings pressure cooker that can sometimes actually hurt long-term innovation or sustainable growth. It's a real trap.
Interesting point.
LTIs, though, they really align executives' interests with the company's long-term success, and they're crucial for retention, so that same retail company. They might also offer managers stock options that vest over 3 years, but only if company-wide profit grows.
So tying it to the bigger picture.
Exactly. The real strategic challenge is finding that balance. How much short-term push can you afford without messing up the long game?
Good question. So Beyond ESSA types and LTIs, there are specific types for individuals and groups, right? For individuals, you often see commissions, pays a percentage of sales revenue, very common in sales roles, obviously, or piece rate pay. You earn a fixed amount per unit produced, like assembling widgets, very direct link.
Very direct.
Then for groups or the whole company, there's profit sharing. A slice of the annual profits goes to employees, maybe cash, maybe into their 401k, rewards overall company success. And then gain sharing. This is where employees share in savings from productivity improvements or cost cuts.
Right. Different focus there.
Yeah, the distinction matters. Profit sharing is about results, gain sharing is more about efficiency.
Good point.
And let's not forget sign-on and retention bonuses. Those one-time targeted cash payments designed to either grab that highly sought-after executive or, keep a key player from jumping ship when a competitor calls. It's basically a focused bet on critical talent.
Absolutely. And moving into that ownership space, we get into equity-based compensation, giving employees a real stake. Stock options are common. They give an employee the right, not the obligation. That's key to buy shares at a set price, the strike price later on. The value grows if the stock price goes up past that strike price. It's a bet on future growth.
Right, potential upside.
Then there are restricted stock units, or RSUs. These are promises of actual company shares that vest, become fully yours over time, or when goals are met. And what's fascinating here, and a key difference, is that unlike options, RSUs always have value once they vest, because they're actual shares, even if the stock price dipped.
Okay, so they're not underwater like options can be.
Exactly. So a tech startup might give engineers both options, betting on big growth, plus RSUs that vest, say, 25% a year for 4 years. It strongly encourages staying, ties them to long-term growth, and gives them something tangible once vested.
That distinction, options versus RSUs, definitely a common SPHR exam point. Good to clarify. And speaking of distinctions, here's an SPHR tip for you listening. Don't mix up STIC and IPs with annual merit increases. Bonuses are contingent, usually non-permanent. Merit increases permanently bump up your base salary. Variable award versus fixed change.
Crucial difference.
Also, remember profit sharing, often annual, tied to overall profit versus gain sharing, usually tied to specific productivity or cost savings, often at a team level.
Yeah.
Important but slightly different AMs. Okay, so while these incentive ideas apply everywhere, compensating leaders, that brings a whole new level of complexity, right? And scrutiny. Let's dig into how rewards are crafted for the top execs and why it's so different. What makes exec comp such a unique beast for HR leaders?
It really is highly structured, and that's largely because executive decisions ripple through the entire organization. Executives do get a base salary, sure, but it's often a smaller slice of their total pay compared to others, maybe 25 to 50% for a CEO. That sends a signal. A lot of their potential earnings are at risk.
Tied to performance.
Exactly. A much bigger piece is often the annual short-term bonus. This can be huge, 50 to 150% of base salary, even more sometimes, tied to hitting company financials, revenue, profit, and their personal strategic goals. Imagine a CFO with a target bonus of 100% of salary if the firm hits specific profit and efficiency targets for the year. It drives that year-over-year performance.
Got it.
But the real hallmark of executive pay is long-term incentives, especially equity. This includes the stock options we talked about, restricted stock or RSUs, and performance shares. Those are RSUs that only pay out if multi-year goals are met. These are critically designed to align the executive's rewards directly with shareholder value over several years.
Makes sense. Long-term view.
Right. A CEO might get options vesting 20% per year over 5 years, plus RSUs that vest if 3-year revenue growth targets are hit. The strategic idea here is fostering that long-term perspective, avoiding, short-term game playing.
So to help remember this whole package, think of the 3 Ps of exec comp: pay, perks, and parachutes.
Good one.
We covered pay, salary, and incentives. Now let's talk perquisites, or perks. These are those special fringe benefits just for execs. Company cars or allowances, club memberships, financial planning services, fancy health checkups.
The extras.
Yeah. They're not just benefits. They're often status symbols. Crucial for attracting top leaders who expect a certain level of support and, frankly, recognition.
True.
And then parachutes. This refers to severance and changing control agreements, often called golden parachutes. These are pre-agreed contracts ensuring an exec gets, say, multiple months of pay or faster vesting of equity if they're terminated without cause or if a company merges or gets acquired.
Protection in uncertain times.
Right. Protects them, but they need careful structuring. There's even IRS Section 280G, which slaps an excise tax on excessive golden parachutes, so you have to design them carefully.
Compliance is key.
Plus, Dodd-Frank brought in those, say, on golden parachute shareholder votes. Yeah, it's transparency.
And compliance is absolutely paramount across the board here. We also have deferred compensation plans. These are non-qualified plans letting execs defer salary or bonuses to the future, often for tax or retention reasons. But crucially, they must comply with IRS Section 409A rules. And what's challenging there isn't just when you pay, it's the incredibly strict rules around how and when you can change those deferral choices. It can trip up even experienced HR folks and carry stiff penalties.
Wow, okay. Good to know.
Another critical piece, clawback provisions. Many modern exec plans have these. They let the company reclaim bonuses or stock gains if they were based on, say, misstated financials or misconduct. Dodd-Frank and the stock exchanges now require public firms to have these policies, especially for financial restatements, a powerful governance tool.
Definitely sounds like it.
And finally, extensive disclosure and compliance. Public U.S. companies have to report exec pay and SEC filings, the summary compensation table and the proxy, the compensation discussion and analysis, or CD&A, explaining the why behind the pay decisions. Transparency is key for shareholders.
And speaking of transparency, the Dodd-Frank Act, huge impact on exec comp, right?
Right.
It mandates those advisory, say, on pay votes, shareholders weigh in, and it requires disclosing the CEO to median employee pay ratio. Really shone a light on that gap.
It fundamentally changed the accountability game. And this raises an important point. Why advisory votes, not binding? It's about giving shareholders a voice, influencing committees without totally dictating policy. Preserves the board's authority.
About the balance again.
Exactly. Also, for your SPHR, remember IRS Section 162 meters. It limits the tax deductibility for most executive pay over $1 million per officer unless it's performance-based. This rule really shapes how companies structure exec comp to make sure it's performance-based, justifiable, and avoids a bigger corporate tax hit.
Okay, so beyond the theory and the structure, HR leaders are operating this tight legal frame. When you look at all the U.S. laws governing compensation, which one do you think has the most maybe surprising or misunderstood impact on pay strategy, knowing these cold is non-negotiable for the SPHR?
That's a great question because, yeah, the interpretation is everything. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, that's foundational, minimum wage, overtime, exempt status. But a crucial detail for SPHR, and often missed, non-discretionary bonuses and commissions must be included in the regular rate when you calculate overtime pay.
Ah, okay, non-discretionary.
Yes. And what's insightful or tricky is how seemingly small things like an attendance bonus promised by a formula can suddenly trigger big overtime calculation headaches if not structured right. It's a reminder that discretionary really has to mean fully discretionary, not just we decide later.
Got it. That's a key nuance.
Then you have equal pay laws. The Equal Pay Act, Title VII, Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, they mandate equal pay for equal work regardless of gender, race, etc. SPHRs need to be actively enforcing pay equity, auditing salary ranges, and critically avoiding practices like basing new hire pay only on their old salary that can just carry forward old biases.
Like proactive steps are needed.
Definitely. It's not just what you can't do, it's what you must do. Then the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, ADEA, protects workers 40+ now. Can't reduce benefits based on age unless it's cost justified. Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA ensures comp programs accommodate disabilities, like not penalizing for necessary medical leaves. And COBRA, that's about continuing group health coverage after termination or other events.
And we touched on those critical IRS tax codes already. 49A for deferred comp, 2NEG for golden parachutes, and 162 meters limiting exec pay deductibility. These aren't just accounting details. They seriously shape and constrain compensation strategy, especially for public companies.
Right. And connecting back to Dodd-Frank, it goes beyond, say, on-pay and pay ratio. It also requires public companies to disclose hedging policies for executive stock rewards and those clawback policies we mentioned. Plus, they have to file 8K reports explaining how, say, on-pay results were considered. The SEC rules really push for transparency and that link between exec actions and shareholder trust.
Okay, lots of laws. To help remember the big ones for total rewards, especially under exam pressure, try this mnemonic. Think a chafe.
A chafe.
Yeah. Age, ADEA. COBRA, HIPAA for benefits privacy. ACA, Affordable Care Act, huge for health benefits. FLSA and ERISA, governing retirement and welfare plans.
SCAFE, handy.
This be a useful shortcut for your SPHR studies.
So with all these complexities, the structures, the laws, what does it all mean for HR leaders strategically? Beyond just knowing the rules, How do these pay plans genuinely support the organization's strategy? What tools does HR use to make sure compensation is an investment, not just a cost?
Yeah, this is where strategic HR really comes into play.
Yeah.
Well-designed pay systems directly align actions with goals. Like we said, putting a big chunk of CEO pay at risk via stock. That focuses the leader on long-term shareholder value. Sales commissions drive revenue, innovation bonuses might push patent filings, profit sharing encourages cost control across the board.
So it directs behavior. Exactly. And compensation decisions send powerful cultural signals, too. Are you fostering a pure pay-for-performance culture, or one that values stability and teamwork more? The design reinforces the behaviors you want.
And it's a whole cycle, isn't it? Building the business case for a new program, clearly communicating it, which often gets missed,
So true.
and then crucially ongoing evaluation because, what gets measured gets managed. You have to track if it's actually working.
Absolutely. And as an SPHR candidate, you need the key metrics and calculations for that. For instance, pay mix ratios, the ratio of fixed base pay to variable pay, a 60-40 mix on a $100 K target cash, $60 K base, $40 K target incentive, essential for modeling sales comp scenarios on the exam. Then there's total rewards cost, sum of all comp expenses base, bonus, benefits value. Tracking this as a percent of revenue, that's strategic, shows human capital efficiency. The Compa ratio compares salary to the midpoint of the salary range. Over 1.0, paid above midpoint, below 1.0, below. But here's the deeper insight. A Compa ratio alone doesn't tell you why. Performance, market lag, bias. Strategic HR uses it as a starting point for investigation, comparing it with performance data, market surveys, ensuring real talent management, not just ticking boxes.
Good point. It's a trigger, not the whole story.
Exactly. We also have pay-for-performance metrics like that Dodd-Frank CEO pay ratio, CEO total pay divided by median employee pay, a metric of equity, transparency, and revisiting FLSA overtime calculations. Remember, include those non-discretionary bonuses in the regular rate, the DOL formula, regular rate, total weekly pay, including non-discretionary bonuses, divided by total hours worked.
Okay, that formula is key.
It pops up frequently in SPHR scenarios. Getting it wrong is costly.
Okay, let's get tactical for SPHR prep. We've covered a ton of detail. What are the common pitfalls, the traps that snag even smart candidates? What should listeners really watch out for?
Great question. Definitely some recurring ones. First, mixing up incentive types. Don't confuse a multi-year equity grant, an LTI, with an annual cash bonus, a CTEP. Seems obvious, but happens. And the discretionary versus non-discretionary for overtime that catches people. A truly discretionary gift doesn't count, but a promised performance bonus absolutely does. Read the fine print on discretionary.
Okay, details matter.
Hugely. Then, equity confusion. Stock options, right to buy. RSUs, actual shares later. A common trap is thinking RSUs are worthless if the stock drops. Nope. Once vested, they hold the market value, whatever it is. Also, beware of legal defaults. Don't just assume tax benefits for exec pay, Section 409A, Section 162 meter. They require active compliance, not passive hope.
Assume nothing.
Good rule. Avoid attribution errors, too. If the question's about overtime, think FLSA, not Title VII or ADA. Read carefully they test if you know the most relevant law. For pay mix questions, watch percentages versus actual dollar amounts. A 60-40 mix on 80K means 40% of 80K is the target incentive, not 40% of the base salary part.
Easy math mistake to make under pressure.
Very. And finally, don't ignore context. SPHR questions often throw in red herrings. Focus on what aligns to strategy or law, not just fluff. Always, always tie your answer back to strategy, compliance, or business outcomes. That's the SPHR level thinking they want to see.
Great advice. To help with rehaul, here are those mnemonics again. For variable pay types, think VPI, variable pay, annual bonuses, profit sharing, individual incentives.
VBPI.
For exec comp, the 3 Ps, pay, perks, parachutes. And for the design process, IDA, investigate, design, execute, assess. Little memory joggers for exam day. Wow. Okay, we have covered a tremendous amount today, really dove deep into this fascinating and, let's be honest, absolutely critical world of total rewards, incentives, variable pay, executive comp. From the basics to the legal complexities and strategic uses, it's all vital for your SPHR success.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture again, mastering these concepts, it's not just about passing an exam, it's about being that strategic HR leader who can actually design compensation plans that drive success, navigate the legal maze, and really shape the culture. It's about being a positive force in the organization.
Absolutely well said. And as you continue your SPHR journey, here's something to chew on. How might the rise of AI and automation, or, the ever-growing gig economy, How might those fundamentally challenge how we even define performance and how we structure both short-term and long-term incentives in the coming decades, a field that's constantly evolving?
That's a big question.
It is. Your strategic insights are going to be more valuable than ever. Keep learning, keep applying these critical insights. You'll not only master your SPHR, but really excel as a strategic HR pro. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.